Okay, guys, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to respect everybody's time. So good morning. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. I'm very glad you're here today. I'm delighted to have Betsy Berkhemer Credaire as our guest. She's going to be amazing. So we're in webinar format so that we can tape the program. We have a lot of people watch it after the fact. We want to give you a chance to get to know each other. And so we do a networking session once a month. Our next networking session is on October 29th. And you can always find out who our upcoming guest is every Monday on our website, pursepower.com. You can register for any event from there. I want to tell you a little bit about Purse Power. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what Purse Power is trying to do. We started these calls at the beginning of the pandemic, and our intention is to really connect you with each other, connect you with national leaders, give everybody a chance to learn and connect during this difficult time. So that's what this is all about. I just want to give some shout outs to any of my investors that are on the line. I think Danita Thomas, Jennifer Grigsby, Lynn Harden, Lou Kerr, and Jean Kelly are online. I'll introduce Betsy. Please go ahead and share your comments during chat. I would love to have you introduce yourselves. Who are you? What do you do? Let's do that in chat. And then we'll be doing questions a little later on in the broadcast. Just go ahead and write your questions in the Q&A block. Just click on Q&A at the bottom and put them in, and we'll try to feed them to Betsy as they come up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Betsy Berkhemer Credaire is the CEO of 50/50 Women on Boards, and also the CEO of Berkhemer Clayton Retained Executive Search. 50/50 Women on Boards is the only national campaign to educate and enable more women to serve on corporate boards and more companies to seek and put them on their boards. It's a 501c3, and they have a national website that tracks the number of women serving on public company boards. They've got the annual Gender Diversity Index report and the National Conversation on Board Diversity, which is coming up. And I'm going to give Betsy a chance to really talk to you about that, because that's a fantastic event done every year. Let's see here. She is the author of 2 books, Winning the Board Game and The Board Game, How Smart Women Become Corporate Directors. Thank you for holding up.
Commercial break.
There you go. There you go. You also train women to get on boards. You also have classes that help them do that, right? Yes, okay. Betsy leads the corporate board practice, and she helps corporations increase their gender and ethnic diversity on their boards of directors. She also chairs the Los Angeles Orange County chapter of the Women Corporate Directors, which is a global network of women who serve on public and private boards. You're amazing. Thank you for being here.
Well,
okay.
Thank you, Nana.
Yeah. All right. So to start, we want to get to know you. Could you please give us a little bit about your background and a high-level overview of your amazing career?
Well, it's a delightful introduction. Thank you so much, Donna. And I want to also applaud you for your efforts to keep women informed and educated, and that you were a chair of our Oklahoma event for several years. Greatly appreciated. And it's wonderful to see what you've done with Purse Power. So I'm really pleased to be here. Even though I said I would only get up this early for Donna Miller, because I'm in Los Angeles, so it's 8 a.m. That's not too early, but you know, I don't have kids, so I'm not up getting them into school or anything like that. I stay up late as a night owl working on our 50/50 Women on Boards activities. But my story hopefully can encourage others. I've been an entrepreneur for almost, I shouldn't even say.
You don't even have to say, yeah.
I shouldn't even say this. For 3 companies. How's that? And I started long ago with a public relations agency, and launched that here in Los Angeles and grew that. And we were acquired by a Chicago firm called Golan Harris. And the office I started here in Los Angeles is still going as Golan Harris Golan Los Angeles. And then I stayed on, but you know, entrepreneurs, many of you are entrepreneurs. Once you sell your company and someone else is running it, it's just not the same. So I at that time, the riots here happened in Los Angeles. It was 1992. So I started a retained executive search firm as a result of that. I had been on the task force to rebuild Los Angeles. And part of that I felt would be a retained executive search firm with a focus on diversity and helping corporations who were having difficulty bringing women into the senior ranks, as we all know, and especially reaching out to diverse persons of color, men as well as women. So we've had a very good track record all these years, 27 years in business as Berkhemer Clayton. Thanks for mentioning that, Donna. And that we've had a diversity track record where 62% of the candidates placed have been women and people of color. So I'm proud of that.
Fantastic.
And then that led to 20 years ago, my curiosity as to why there were not enough women on corporate boards. There weren't many. I mean, there were like 10% of all board seats were held by women. And since I was doing corporate board search, I mean, I was doing corporate executive searches. I wasn't doing board searches at the time. And I was looking around and saying, where are the women? Just like Donna says, where are the women? How do we get women motivated? It's not the women's problem. But women are motivated to serve on corporate boards, and there are many, many hundreds, if not thousands, of qualified women across the country. I know there are thousands actually, who have the business experience that would qualify them for corporate boards. So what I did was got involved as a volunteer, just like all of you, and started to develop an avenue for women to communicate. And I brought together women who did serve on corporate boards to talk to others who were poised to find ways to serve on corporate boards. And I'll get into the challenges of that. So for women as well as for companies. And then the culmination, besides writing the books about how women got on corporate boards, in the two books, there are 103 interviews of women who reveal, as much as they know at least, how they network to get on corporate boards.
Fantastic.
And then I was responsible for leading and originating the California law that has had a ripple effect across the country to require California companies to have 3 women on their boards by the end of this year. And it started in 2019 when 1 woman was required, and that worked. We had 200 women on corporate boards in California, and no companies were remaining with none. Nobody had a 0, everybody had at least 1. And
Wow.
now they're really scrambling because a lot of companies don't want to comply with the law. And I'm facing a couple of lawsuits about it, but we've had the law in place for 2.5 years. The train left the station. It's been a wonderful ripple effect across the country. Whether or not there are laws, we don't need laws. It's just a matter of companies being more attuned to and reaching out to women and women of color to add them to their corporate boards. So all that's the whole history, Donna. And I'm proud of where we are, but we have a long way to go.
Boy, you are making a difference. Holy smokes. That's fantastic. I didn't realize that it was 3 by the end of the year. I didn't realize that.
3 by the end of this year. And a lot of companies are waking up to that fact. Oh my God. So they're scrambling in California to find qualified, there are thousands, as I said, of qualified women, not only here, but women who live in other states who are qualified to serve on corporate boards here. But some are holding back to see if this is really going to happen, if they really have to have those pesky women on their corporate boards, but we'll see.
From what I understand, 3 is the magic number too, in terms of you stop being the other and you get critical mass at 3, right?
That's what the research says. And I think all of us on this call would realize, and you've had it happen to all of you, it's happened to me, where you're the only woman in the room. It's hard to be the one who's bringing up difficult topics, or even asking questions when the guys are just kind of barreling along and doing things the way they used to do or always do, and on their boards. But if you have 2, then you're not alone. The funny story is they say 1 is a token, 2 is someone to go to the powder room with, where a lot of conversation gets taken care of.
Yeah, sure.
And then 3 really is a voice. And even if there are 10 members or 15 members on the board, if you have 3 women, you still have a group, and you still have not necessarily a block, but you have a voice. So that's what our goal is, not only here, but throughout the country, because 50-50 women on boards, which I didn't get into yet, because you mentioned 50-50 women on boards goal is to have 50% women on boards, 50% men. We're not trying to take over. We believe that half and half is really good. Like a good marriage, you make really good decisions together. But we just reached nationwide, we just reached 25%, which is 25% of the board seats of the Russell 3000. And that's
Congrats.
3,000 companies, not just the Fortune 1000. We've reached 25%. But because of the law in California, we reached 29%. And this is as of June 30th. And neither of those numbers have ever been this high.
Congratulations. Great work. Great work.
Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. All right. So talk about, I mean, you and I both get it. I'm sure everybody in the audience does too. But why should we have women on boards? What's the business rationale for having women on boards?
It is a business rationale. You're absolutely right. It's a business imperative because several studies, Credit Suisse, KPMG, McKinsey, other credible non-women owned entities, highly independent, have done research over a period of years that pointing out that, my goodness, when women are on the boards, these companies are more profitable, more productive, and the workforce is better engaged because the workforce can look up and say, hey, there's somebody like me on the board. Maybe this company cares about me. And it's not anecdotal. It is proven research. And it's not only profitable by a couple of percentages, it's like by 35, 40% in some cases. Excuse me. And these are big companies.
Wow.
So that is the business reason. Now, guys tell me all the time, Betsy, you can't tell me if we put a couple women on the board, we're going to be more profitable. And I said, well, why don't you try? Maybe, you owe it to the shareholders, let alone the community. And maybe your consumers might notice, your employees. So the real pressure, though, is not coming from 50-50 or other women's organizations. The real pressure is coming from shareholders. And for all of you who own shares, even just a few in a company, you get a proxy statement every year asking for your vote for the slate of directors. So all of us write in and say, where are the women? I'm not voting for any of these people. And that's just a small protest because those people probably get voted in anyway. But making a statement like that helps. And it's the shareholders, individuals like us who have pension plans, 401ks, take a look at who your 401k is investing in. Because a lot of us just put our money in the 401k and never even think, well, who are they investing in? Are they companies with women on the boards that'll be more profitable? Or are they just companies that they think are going to have the best return? By the way, there have been studies that say that the companies with women on the boards have the best returns, so the best dividends. So it's a really good marker for shareholders to look at. And then the big institutional shareholders, NASDAQ and CalPERS, CalSTRS, New York State Pension Fund, all of the bigs, Goldman Sachs, are making statements and pressure to their members that they have to have women and people of color on their boards. Or in the case of NASDAQ, as you know, the recent rule, the threat is that they'll be delisted. So that's a pretty good hammer.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, it's always frustrated me when we make 80% of the purchasing decisions that we don't have more representation on the board. I don't know how that can be justified.
Right.
The other thing is you pointed out how much investing power women have. I had heard before the pandemic that women were going to control is like 70% of the private wealth in this country for the next 2 generations. I mean,
70%. Yeah,
yes.
all the men, we live longer than our men.
exactly.
Excuse me a second. It's been raining here in Los Angeles, believe it, only for 5 minutes. As you all know, we're in a huge drought in California. And so I was looking at the rain. Now it's gone. 5 minutes, that's it. That's all we
That's all you
get.
get.
But 3 drops, but the sun is coming out. So let me close the blind.
Okay, of course, of course.
3 drops. It's not enough.
No. God, I wish you well. I wish you well. And then we get a deluge out here. So
I sent it our way. Bill Maher said the other night, why can't they build a pipeline? They build a pipeline for oil. Why can't they help us with all the overflow water that you don't need? Should send it out here. Somebody's going to do that someday and they'll be heroes.
Yeah, boy, that's an interesting point. All right. So for our listeners that are interested in board services, I want to find out what experience they have to have in their career that makes them an attractive candidate. What are corporations looking for? Give us a sense as a recruiter of board members.
Fortunately, the boards are, and because of shareholder pressure, becoming much more aware that the board should not just be what they've traditionally been, CEOs and buddies of the current CEO.
Yeah.
And but there needs to be not only independent thought, independent directors, of course, are required, but independent thinking and different functional thinking. Because for years and decades, corporate boards, been the old guys. There are out of about 30,000 board members total, men and women over the U.S. approximately. 1,600 of them have been on their boards for 30 or 40 years.
Wow.
A lot of these old duffers, they want to enjoy the money, the perks, the travel, the social aspects of being on the board and being in the elite of the business world. But they're still having their secretaries print out their emails for them. And so we need shareholders insist, we need tech savvy people on boards. We need those who understand compensation, who understand diversity in the workforce, and who understand the big buzzword of today, which is ESG. All of you have heard that. That means environment, social, and governance of the company. And so with the environment being so critically important and social communication, digital marketing, and human resources related to diversity in the workforce, equity, and other important important functional leadership of the human resources leaders of companies. Those functions have been great functions where women have advanced in HR for years, and many women are CHROs. Those people, those women, and that experience is now being sought by corporate boards, which it never ever was. Never ever. Anything that was an expense to a company rather than profit building side or income building side was considered somebody we don't want on the board, but not now for all the environmental and human reasons that we all know that corporations and all of us are dealing with. So that's why this is good, because CHROs, digital marketers, women who are cybersecurity experts, very much sought after, and you should be, if you're in that avenue, continue to develop your leadership and your visibility in your industry, so that you'll be thought of as a potential board candidate when searches happen.
That is such good news. I did HR for 30 years. I'm delighted to hear it. I was always wondering why there wasn't more talent around that topic at the top. That's fantastic. Good news. I mean, a lot of women are in that field, to your point. I want you to talk about the training that you do. You started to talk a little bit about visibility and how people get the visibility they need to be considered for being on a board. But would you talk a little bit more about your training program and how you help prepare people?
Well, this is through 50/50 Women on Boards.
Yeah.
And you can learn more through our website, 5050wob.com. And the training that we do are 2 levels. One is called Get On Board Workshop for senior level women who are at the senior VP level or even VP level and are really poised in a year or maybe 5 years to be selected for a corporate board. And then we do another workshop called Paths to the Boardroom, which is mid-level women in their 30s, let's say. It's not always age, but 30s and 40s. Women who should be getting on boards are in their 50s generally, but not, there are some younger, there are some older. But just in thinking about your career path for your listeners, thinking about getting on a corporate board in your 50s, private or public, private first, moving on to public. But the path to the boardroom as well helps women who might be 10 years away think about their visibility and think about their networking. And in both of these workshops, it's interactive, but each one only has 25 participants in it. So it's very interactive with me and the co-founder, and we always have 2 or 3 what we call director coaches. Those are guest corporate directors who talk about their pathway, and they relate to the women in the workshop. And then the primary factor for all of you, whether it's in your business advancement but especially getting on corporate boards, is strategic networking. Now, that does not mean just going to a lot of events, which we haven't been able to do except on Zoom. Yeah. Although that's been beneficial, actually, because when you go to a Zoom event, you're at least be able to see, people can see your face as opposed to wandering in a room and looking for the right person. But the important thing is to be identifying your experience that boards would value, and then reach out to, we say 25 people, have a list of 25 people. Now, or it could start with 10 people that you know that serve on nonprofit boards, and you'd like their advice as well. But they probably also serve on corporate boards. But others you may know, like your cousin you have dinner with every Thanksgiving, and he or she really does not know the depth of your career because you never really talk about that. We try to help women get over the logic, the not fear, but hesitation we all have about talking about ourselves. So what we try to help women understand is that you are sharing in order to help them, the guys who serve on corporate boards. You say it in a very not deferential, but conversational way. Gee, there's a mission, a movement going across the country to advance women to corporate boards. And Joe, I just wanted you to know that I intend to serve on a corporate board and over several years from now, and I'm looking for the right one for me. So I would welcome your keeping me in mind. And that's all you have to get into. And then he might say, women are very interested, so women will ask you the questions, but you may have to prompt this fellow you're talking to, and not to ask him to serve on his board, but to simply say, gee, I'd welcome your advice. My experience is CHRO, or I'm working up to, being the head of compensation for our company. I have a lot of comp and benefits experience. What would you say, Joe, that I should really use in my talking about myself that would make me an interesting or viable board candidate? Let them tell you, but start the conversation. So that's what we train our women to do, is how to start that conversation and not be boasting, but make sure you get in the 3 points you're trying to get in, just like any good salesperson. But I'm not saying that you have to be a salesperson. I'm just saying that you want to make sure that no matter what they say, that you get in your 3 points. Now, all of us are pretty good about that. If you've been married, you know how to maneuver your husband to make the right decision and your decision. So that's just some of that magic that you just need to use, and your charm to have the word spread that you are a potential candidate. This could take years, women. It's not something that's going to happen next year. Maybe if you're an EVP of an oil company, and you happen to have the CHRO experience or the cybersecurity experience or even digital marketing, could happen in a year or two. But we want women to understand it's a long-term process, but someday you're going to be 50, 60, and you may not be now, but I can attest to you, I'm there, I'm over the hill already, but yeah, you'll get there. So you may as well be doing this visibility work and then along the way in order to be remembered for corporate boards and have that be the ultimate goal of your career.
That's a really good point. And through the sessions that we held, when it was 2020 Women on Boards, I heard people say you really need to be thinking about this your whole career and positioning yourself and making the connections and keeping up with the people who may eventually be able to help you get on a board.
And get prior board experience. By that, I mean, serve, and I'm sure all of you do. You're involved in nonprofit organizations, cancer, health, lung, your hospital board, your university board, whatever you're involved in nonprofits, start thinking of it very Machiavellian-like. Yes, you're committed to the cause, but also you want to be involved in nonprofits where you are going to meet other men and women who serve on corporate boards. So before you get involved in a nonprofit, of course, you would look at who's on the board and whom you're going to meet and think of it in those terms and how it's going to advance you as well as your volunteer work advancing them. Always get on the board. If you think of being a volunteer, like I was a volunteer in March of Dimes for a couple of years early in my career, and then I got on the board and then I became chair of the board. Be a visible person. And all of you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you were not career committed and very thinking about how you're going to maneuver in positive ways to get yourself to corporate boards, because when you get there, you're going to be doing good work. You're doing good work along the way, but you'll be doing good also when you're on the corporate board to help that company not only be a good business, but be a better community citizen, serve the community better, serve the workforce better, be very eyes on about equal pay. And when we get women on the boards, they look at equal pay. They look at whether the guys, senior management, are fooling around with the women and the company paying hush money to keep that quiet. Women on the boards, it ain't going to happen anymore. No. Harvey Weinstein and Steve Wynn, both of whom fell from grace as they should, there were no women on their corporate boards. No women would have put up with those shenanigans, as you know. Yeah. So, and didn't. And now both, Weinstein's out of business, but the Wynn Resorts now is a gender balanced company, which is what we are geared toward. Gender balance meaning 50-50, as I mentioned. We call that gender balance. And in numbers, boards where there are odd numbers of directors, like 13 or 15, we count gender balance as one more or one less than half. Women have to hold one more or one less than half the board seats. Now, this is not a law, of course. This is just a movement, and that's our goal.
But it's a significant one. And the other thing I want to let people know is on October 22nd, I've got Gretchen Carlson coming on. So she's going to be talking about the issue with the NDAs and silencing people around sexual harassment. So that's a fantastic show, to your point.
Excellent. Well, you do a great job with this show, and your listeners are so fortunate. So Donna has great connections, and this is a really helpful forum for not only voicing, but for getting action started. So
absolutely. Well, I normally wait till a certain point in the program to ask questions, but we've got one coming up, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. Jarika Dodd is asking, any recommendations or advice for women of color wanting to pursue board membership?
I would say for women of color, this is your time. And Donna, delighted to have you here with us today, and other women of color who may be listening. Because of all the things that have happened last year, we all know, it's so important that corporations have persons of color, men or women. But our mission is to not only achieve 50% women, but also 20% of all board members being women of color. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, well, that's new this year.
That's
since
good.
We changed our name from 2020 women on boards to 50/50 women on boards. And that is helping companies realize that they have to do a better job of networking, in order to reach out beyond their own circles of contacts. I didn't mention that boards, this is the basic premise, everybody, boards are built on relationships of trust. And from having endorsed someone to come on the board who they feel will fit into their culture, except it's, like it's been like the man cave, but now the culture is expanding, but fit into their dialogue and also bring experience that they don't have, that they do need on the board. So with that, board members need to be looking at wider in their circles, but that includes nonprofits and commissions and private company boards. This is where directors are reaching out, and they also are asking, directors are asking their own bankers, their own CPAs, and their attorneys whom they know. You say, we've got to find a woman on this board. We don't know any. We would like to find a woman of color. We don't know any. So banker, attorney, CPA, who do you know among your clients or your retired partners who we might consider? Or another fantastic source is your industry association. And I know the energy and petroleum industry is huge in Oklahoma. And of course, Donna has listeners from all over the country. So your industry focus, or your industry, is where you will most likely find your first corporate board, because people will have seen you or known you in your industry, and you bring industry experience. After your first board, you might get on a different type of tech board, but your first one will most likely be in your industry. So I advise all women, to get onto their industry association board. I don't know which ones to cite necessarily that you might, but you all have industry associations, professional associations. And you can get on those boards very easily, because not everybody thinks they're very sexy, and well, I don't want to be on my industry association. Yes, you do, because you will meet many men who serve on the industry association boards, and then you'll be visible. You'll be seen in action. You can't stay in your own cubicle, in your own office only. You got to do a good job there. But you can't just do that. And that's why I also say, for women, in their 30s and 40s, and may still have kids at home, and maybe single mothers, that's not the time to get on a corporate board. The time to get on a corporate board is when kids are gone, but it's the time to develop visibility your whole career, even if you got kids. But get on boards, corporate boards later on. You can be on your industry board while you still have kids at home. And so that's a huge asset that you know how to get to. You can get on the board, and you will reap benefits from that. So women of color is the same recommendations as non-women of color, and that's really important now. And to reach out. If you have the experience as a senior manager, executive, reach out to private companies, or reach out to other people who, through your nonprofits or through your university or your church, reach out to other people about. And women of color, through their churches and sororities, I've seen that they are making connections and say, hey, I have the experience to serve on corporate boards, in conversation, I'm saying. But you're raising your hand and starting to talk about the fact that you are seeking a corporate board. And that's when you start talking about it, just like one of my favorite anecdotes is a friend of mine in the search business, and she said to me a long time ago, "Hey, look, if you got a divorce and you're ready to get back out on the market again, it's been a couple years and you're ready to take the plunge for whatever reason, you're going to tell all your girlfriends, you're going to tell your men friends, you're going to ask for introductions. Whom do you know? Gee, I'd just like some advice and counsel. Where should I position myself? Where should I be? Maybe on the golf course to meet more men." But that's what works. And then those women who start talking about that generally end up taking the plunge again. Right. And
Great idea.
Better this time. Yeah. So anyway, that's something for you to remember. Yeah, if I were looking for a new job or a new husband, I'd be out there talking about it. So same thing, same exact.
Very good. Thank you for that analogy. By the way, Dr. Dorika Dodd, she is actually a pharmacist who has a business. She's an entrepreneurial pharmacist. Okay, Marcus Cyphers is asking,
for Dorika, start looking at medical device companies. Start looking at, if you're not on a board now, get on a hospital, your local hospital board, and your university board. So all of you have avenues that you can start to think about and get on those boards in order to meet people. Oh, I'll close with 85% of the women I interviewed in my books, 85% of them were recommended for their first board by someone they knew on their nonprofit board.
Wow.
85%.
That's amazing. Oh, actually, go ahead.
They're high-powered women. You'd think that they were, very visible, but they were recommended by somebody who knew them and had seen them in action.
Fantastic. Okay, Margaret Cyphers, high-power woman, is asking, do you feel nonprofit board service is a prerequisite for serving on a private or public board? Do you feel the expectation here is the same for men and women?
It's not a prerequisite. It's just a darn good way to meet people who serve on corporate boards. You could also, as I mentioned, industry association board is really, they're nonprofits, but they're associations. So they're different in that regard, and they're very much focused on the business. So I'd suggest taking a look at both, and these what is good about serving on a board in advance of seeking a corporate board is, beyond meeting the people, is to be able to say, oh, I've been in the boardroom. I understand boards. I know how they work. I've been on the United Way board of Oklahoma for 5 years. And it also says that you have contacts. Businesses want people on their board who are going to help them grow. So the more business contacts you can say that you have, it's very attractive to corporations to bring other board members on who know people and know business people. So that's good to talk about yourself. I've had women, one in particular, come back to me after a board interview and say all they wanted to know was about my business contacts. And I said, well, that's great. That's exactly what you should be talking about. So I talk about that in all of our workshops at 50 women on boards, that your business contacts are a big asset for you. And think of it that way for your nonprofit board service, but it's not a prerequisite. It's just a really good thing to have.
Good path. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to give you a chance to ask more questions. So please go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. In the interim, I want you to talk about 50-50 women on boards and what's coming up and what you're doing, the vision for the organization, and all of your events in November.
Thank you. That's
yeah.
I'm a little exhausted most of the time, but we have 30 events, women, including Oklahoma, which is going to be November the 19th, Friday, November 19th. And that time, let me check, the time is 1 to 3 o'clock Central. So you can tune in it's a Zoom. All events are virtual still, of course, because of all the reasons we know. So, but the good thing about virtual is you get to see people close up. And I think I love virtual. I love Zoom. Like today, get to see people and read their faces, etc. I'm sorry I don't get to see everybody in the audience, but someday. And then at 50/50, we have two big blocks of what we do, the workshops that I mentioned, and then the global conversation on board diversity. And that's comprised of 30 cities, 30 and statewide. Oklahoma is a statewide event. And the events themselves focus on, they're all different people involved, but our same format. The first hour of a 2-hour event is for corporate directors, men as well as women, from gender balanced companies, talking about how they achieve gender balance and diversity on their boards. That's our theme, leading the way to diverse gender balanced boards. Out of the out of the Russell 3000 today, there are about, I know exactly, 270 gender balanced companies. Now that's about 10%. So it's not there yet. But that means that companies are getting the message. And just like Purse Power, they're realizing that that having women on boards and being responsive to their consumers and their shareholders and recognizing the value of women is a good business decision. It makes good business. So that's what we are talking about during the panel of every event. And then the second part, the second hour, are breakout sessions where those directors and additional, we call them director coaches, but they're all corporate directors, do facilitate the breakout sessions one-on-one with about 10 to 15 women in each one. Now we have a lot of people attending because the whole 30 cities is kicked off on Wednesday the 3rd with a global broadcast. Now we have a global broadcast includes 7 CEOs who have gender balanced boards, and that includes AT&T, Progressive Insurance, HP, and iRobot, and 3 more who I'm not. Kimberly Clark.
Okay.
These are men and women CEOs who have gender balanced boards, and they're leading the way. So we're the only organization putting the focus on this goal and this progress and pointing out, yeah, it can be done. And here are the people who are doing it. So we want them to give their pointers to other companies and recommend how they could also become gender balanced and the business value of doing that. So all of you can attend. Tickets are $150. It's on our website. And if you happen to have a corporation or be part of a corporation, you could buy not a high level sponsorship, $3,500 or $5,000. This is our fundraising event for the year. And it helps to fund our programs and our very small staff. We have a staff of 4, me and 3 others. And we're crazed. Yes, it's a little bit nuts, but good event in Oklahoma. And
around the world. Are you still doing it worldwide?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
New cities, Athens is new, London, Toronto is new, Madrid, Mexico City, and Zurich. And those are our global cities, part of the 30 that we begin on November 3rd, as I said, and then 3 a day all the way up to the 19th, which is your day and Oklahoma's event. And that'll be the last. We'll take the Thanksgiving break the whole week to recover.
Well,
So
and they can attend
Yes.
they can attend any event anywhere in the world, right? If they've got clients or they want relationships. I know LA had like 700 people attend your events. I mean,
700, Seattle 600 last year, Dallas 600. But there are smaller events, 100, 100, 200. Oklahoma will be about that size, and Chicago and New York will be about 500. So that's why breaking into the breakout sessions for the second hour is really important. So each person gets a personal takeaway on what she should be focused on. And yes, we have many people buying additional cities because with the basic $150 ticket, you get the global broadcast plus 1 city, and generally it's your home city. but it can be any. And then for any additional cities, you can add them on for $50 each. So there are quite a few people who are attending 5, 7 events because it's like a full course. All the people are different. All the panels are different. They all say different stuff. So, and you feel very close to those people through Zoom, thankfully. So I hope that all your listeners will consider attending. And as I say, it's not expensive. It could help change your life.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better place to network, to your point, with other women that are on boards, trying to get on boards. You've got the directors that are coaching people. It's an amazing place to be.
It is indeed. It is. And when you were the chair, Donna, it was still an in-person event, very personal, still the panel. Every event had, for 2020 Women on Boards, had panel plus the networking and the breakout sessions in person. Now, there's a certain value to that, but there's also a value to being able to attend so many events. Almost is better than a course at Stanford or Harvard, you know, and where those courses are offered to help women and then get on corporate boards. And this is really unique.
Wow, you're doing incredible things. All right, guys, any further questions? Let's go ahead and ask. You've answered a lot. Add your questions to the Q&A block. And then I was also wondering, what can the leaders listening to the call do to help you with all this? Like, one of the things that happened here with Oklahoma, I wanted to attend an event and there wasn't one near me. So I called corporate and said, hey, can I do one? I mean, what would you like people on the call to do to help you?
Just what you did. You're right. First, attend our event, and which is in each city, it's called like the Oklahoma Conversation on Board Diversity. First, attend. Get this today is beginning a change in your life. Once you start to think about women on boards, you'll start noticing what companies have women on board. You'll start connecting to purse power and only buying products from those companies that have women on boards. What a concept. And congratulations to Donna on that. But attend the events, the global conversation, consider a workshop, get on board or path to the boardroom, and look at our research on our website, 5050wob.com. I'll put it in the chat. On our website, you'll see research as one of the menu selections and directory. Every quarter now, it used to be only once a year. Once a week, my goodness, couldn't do that. Once a year, but now it's quarterly. We update every company in the Russell 3000 and how many women they have on their boards. So, thanks, Donna. And then you can go to our website. It's open to the public. No membership. We're not a membership organization. We are a public education nonprofit and research. And so you go to our website, look at research and directory, which is the Gender Diversity Index directory. And you can scroll down, you can put in Oklahoma, or you can put in Washington State, or just get the whole list of companies. And then you can put in the ranking, gender balance, we call it GB, or the next one down is 3+, which means 3 women on their board. So they're doing really well too. We honor them and recognize them. And then you can also see who's got 2 or 1 or 0. There are zeros around the rest of the country still, but and a lot of those for the pharmacist who's on the call, a lot of those are pharmaceutical companies. They are biotech companies where a pharmacist would be welcome on the board because you're part of their audience and their target audience. So that I hope helps what you can do. And there are so many cities now. I would say you don't need to do what Donna did and start your own 50-50 women on boards, but you certainly could. But it's a bit of an undertaking, and it's all volunteers out there in the field. And but you'll be able to find, if not local, now that we're on Zoom, you can attend Chicago, you can attend Dallas, you can attend LA, whatever city you want to attend to get to know what's going on, and or whatever city you might like to move to. You never know.
Yeah, make the connections. The other thing I was thinking is advisory boards. So I'm an entrepreneur, obviously, and we've got advisors. That's another place. So you're not on the formal board, but that's an opportunity too, isn't it?
It really is. That's a
Yeah.
very good point. Not all companies, but a lot of companies have, especially diversity advisory boards or
Mhm.
consumer advisory boards. I served, I don't now, at Southern California Edison. And I was on their consumer advisory board, which is mostly diversity focused. They want input from their audience about how they're doing in messaging to diverse audiences, including women
Mhm.
and persons of color. So advisory boards you can check out, sort of. It's mostly, again, found through networking.
Mhm.
Because you don't necessarily know if a company has an advisory board, but you can ask friends who serve at the company. I mean, for those of you who are in Oklahoma, there are not that many publicly held companies. Privates don't generally have advisory boards because private companies are not, they're not accountable. They're not held accountable by shareholders. That's the main difference, of course. Public companies are owned by shareholders and rely on growth related to money that they're, in a sense, borrowing from shareholders and from the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. So we, as their shareholders, have a right to say, hey, we want to see more diversity on your board. We want to be following what actions you're taking in terms of human resources, et cetera. But then the other ways to find advisory boards are sometimes through their websites. You can see on any company's website who their board members are. Look under governance or investor relations. It's not front and center. You have to look in the menus of companies, but they have to have their boards listed on their websites, and they list their boards, of course, in their public documents, which are their reports they make to the SEC and their proxy statements and their annual reports. So you can find out who the directors are, but because you find, when you look at our website, you simply see the number of women. And we're trying also to include diversity and be able to include the count of how many persons of color they have on their boards. And that's going to, it's just really started by researchers, because we all rely on self-identification of all board members as to what their racial or if they're LGBTQ, if they self-identify in their reports to the SEC. A lot of people don't. And so we don't really know hard facts about diversity, but that is a coming trend where companies will be reporting on their diversity on the board.
That's the way to get the change made. That's awesome. All right. We are running out of time here. So Lisa is asking, I see Path to Boardroom. That event is not until December 5th, but it sounds like that's a class. That is not the national conversation, right? Do you want to be clear on how they find the national conversation?
The national conversation is under events, the global conversation under events, and it pops up to say global conversation on board diversity. Click on that, and then you'll see 3 choices, but any of them go to all of the cities. But city, state events is your choice, and then you click on that and scroll down, and you'll see all 30 cities, including Oklahoma, as statewide.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I'll put in the chat my website for how to get Winning the Board Game.
Please.
Commercial break. 2 books, and it's best if you'll see it on my website how to purchase them, and if you'd like to know more. Oh, also, and I'm going to get that up soon, audiobooks were just made by the publisher for both books, so I'm pleased and proud of that.
Fantastic. That is wonderful. All right. So let's see here. I just want to also ask you a final question, and then we need to close out. But what are the top 3 things you want us to have learned from you? And what are the top 3 actions you want us to take?
Well, Winning the Board Game I'm typing here, winningtheboardgame.com, if I didn't mistype it, winningtheboardgame.com. The top 3 actions are to first look at your own company where you work, if you're not an entrepreneur like Donna and me, but you work for a corporation. You probably have never looked at who's on the board. So take a look and see if there are women on the board. And if not, you probably are not going to be on your own company board. You'll be on an outside board, but find out, gee, doesn't our company need to have women on their boards? And if you want to suggest that they purchase a corporate sponsorship for learning more and about getting women on boards, that's one possibility. But some companies that don't have any women on boards don't want to attend our events either because they don't want to be
embarrassed.
Yeah, that's why we spotlight the ones that are gender balanced and have 3 or more women on their boards. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me, still drinking this coffee, I think. And then look next at your industry association. What industry association could you may already be involved, but where could you get on that board? And then for those of you who are on nonprofits, take a look at you would already know who's on those boards, but you might not know of those people on the boards who you see once a month or quarterly, what other corporate boards they serve on. Look up their LinkedIn, take a look, see what corporate boards they might serve on. And if you know, or you'll find out, then you start to, not pester them about it, but just mention that you are seeking on the long term your own corporate board seat, and you would welcome their recommendation. So that's 2 things right there. Attend the global conversation on board diversity in Oklahoma or your city, state. Mm-hmm. And just lastly, start to think. I certainly intend to get on board or pass to the boardroom, but start to think about your future. Think in terms of long term. It's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're, busy with your job every day and your family. But where is my career taking me? And note that most corporate boards, their retirement age, if they have one, is 75. Used to be 72. And then the guys got close to 72 and moved it to 75. Sure. Some of them are trying to move it to 80. And because they do earn money, and you would earn money being on a corporate board, they don't want to give that up. Mm-hmm. So you can look at the proxy statements and annual reports and find out how much money they earn. Even if it's $50,000, that'd be a nice little piece of change for you and when you are getting into your 50s and 60s. So you're thinking about getting on corporate boards in your 50s, because most board members are on for 10 to 15 years, except those that are long in the tooth and stay on forever. But 10 to 15 years, and you don't really want to stay on a board probably more than 10 years, maybe 15, because you run out of good ideas and things change, companies change, and boards should be refreshed over those years. So that's why thinking long term, if 75 is going to be the end of your corporate board involvement, and it might go on, but then think back 15 years, you need to be getting on board by the time you're 60. And such thinking, and be really working on it in your 50s, and start to work on your visibility and your connections in your 30s and 40s. So
fantastic.
It gives everybody, no matter what age you are, something to do with this ultimate goal.
Absolutely. All right. Gosh, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm so engaged. I wanted to go on for another couple of hours, but we got to bring it to a close. Thank you so much, Betsy, for being here. You've been amazing.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I wish I could meet you all in person, but we can if you come to our events. I'll be at every one of them.
Will you? Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's key.
If only to say hello or do a director coach session, I'll be at all of them. And praying that they all go perfectly, just like we're planning. So
they will go great. They're going to go great. All right. So
good luck in your careers, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Upcoming events quickly, guys. So October 15th, we've got Marie Clark. She's the VP of Global Programs for Women. which is an international organization. October 22nd, we have Gretchen Carlson. This is going to be a fantastic show. I really hope you come. And just for reference, I get our guests up every Monday for the Friday show. So you can go to our website, which is pursepower.com/coronavirus. You can see all of our prior broadcasts, and you can go ahead and register for upcoming programs. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in here really quickly. Obviously, we got to pay the bills too. I've been working with, her name is Kim Walsh Phillips. She does Launch Academy Live. I started to take her advice about my business, and we got 12 times the followers that we had when we started with her doing what she told us to do on Facebook. So she knows her stuff. She absolutely can help you, particularly if you're a consultant that's wanting to launch a course around what you know and create a revenue stream. She's amazing. So I included that link. Please download our Google Chrome extension. It'll show you which companies we've got in our directory as you search on Google. Please use our directory to buy from women-owned and women-led companies. I hope you share our social media pages and let your friends know about this broadcast. Again, we have a fantastic broadcast. Last Friday of every month, we do a networking session. Next one's October 29th. Any final words, Betsy?
Just thanks for all you're doing, Donna. You're really, I'm impressed by what you're doing on a regular basis to help your audience and women in general. And I believe what Purse Power is doing. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, you guys.
Have a good weekend.
Everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next Friday, hopefully. And remember, Purse Power, we have it. Let's use it. Talk to you later.